The House come to order.
Mr. Speaker, the Vice President and the United States Senate.
Mr. Speaker and members of Congress, pursuant to the Constitution and laws of the United States, the Senate and House of Representatives are meeting in joint session to verify the certificates and count the votes of the electors of the several states for President and Vice President of the United States. After ascertainment has been had that the certificates are authentic and correct in form, the tellers will count and make a list of the votes cast by the electors of the several states. The tellers on the part of the two houses will take their places at the clerk's desk. Objection. Without objection, the tellers will dispense with reading formal portions of the certificates. After ascertaining that the certificates are regular in form and authentic, the tellers will announce the votes cast by the electors for each state, beginning with Alabama. Senator Fisher.
Madam President, the certificate of the electoral vote of the state of Alabama seems to be regular in form and authentic, and it appears therefrom that Donald J. Trump of the state of Florida received 9 votes for president, and J.D. Vance of the state of Ohio received 9 votes for vice president. Who's this?
Madam President, the certificate of the electoral vote of the state of Alaska seems to be regular in form and authentic, and it appears therefrom that Donald J. Trump of the state of Florida received 3 votes for president, and J.D. Vance of the state of Ohio received 3 votes for vice president.
Madam President, the certificate of the state of Arizona seems to be regular in form and authentic, and it appears therefrom that Donald J. Trump of the state of Florida received 11 votes for president, and J.D. Vance of the state of Ohio received 11 votes for vice president.
Madam President, the certificate of the electoral vote of the state of Arkansas seems to be regular in form and authentic, and it appears therefrom that Donald J. Trump of the state of Florida received 6 votes for president, and J.D. Vance of the state of Ohio received 6 votes for vice president.
Madam President, the certificate of the electoral vote of the state of California seems to be regular in form and authentic, and it appears therefrom that Kamala D. of the state of California received 54 votes for president, and Tim Walz of the state of Minnesota received 54 votes for vice president.
Madam President, the electoral vote of the state of Colorado seems to be regular in form and authentic, and it appears therefrom that Kamala D. Harris of the state of California received 10 votes for president, and Tim Walz of the state of Minnesota received 10 votes for vice president.
Madam President, the certificate of the electoral vote of the state of Connecticut seems to be regular in form and authentic, and it appears therefrom that Kamala D. Harris of the state of California received 7 votes for president, and Tim Walz of the state of Minnesota received 7 votes for vice president.
Madam President, the certificate of the electoral vote of the state of Delaware seems to be regular in form and authentic, and it appears therefrom that Kamala D. Harris of the state of California received 3 votes for president, and Tim Walz of the state of Minnesota received 3 votes for Vice President.
Madam President, the certificate of the electoral vote of the District of Columbia seems to be irregular, in form, inauthentic, and it appears therefrom that Kamala D. Harris of the state of California received three votes for president, and Tim Walz of the state of Minnesota received 3 votes for vice president.
Madam President, the certificate of the electoral vote of the state of Florida seems to be regular in form and authentic, and it appears therefrom that Donald J. Trump of the state of Florida received 30 votes for president, and J.D. Vance of the state of Ohio received 30 votes for vice president.
Madam President, the certificate of the electoral vote of the state of Georgia seems to be regular in form and authentic, and it appears therefrom that Donald J. Trump of the state of Florida received 16 votes for president, and J.D. Vance of the state of Ohio received 16 votes for vice president.
Madam President, the certificate of the electoral vote of the state of Hawaii seems to be regular in form and authentic, and it appears therefrom that Kamala D. Harris of the state of California received 4 votes for president, and Tim Walz of the state of Minnesota received 4 votes for vice president.
Madam President, the certificate of the electoral vote of the state of Idaho seems to be regular in form and authentic, and it appears therefrom that Donald J. Trump of the state of Florida received 4 votes for president, and J.D. Vance of the state of Ohio received 4 votes for vice president.
Madam President, the certificate of the electoral vote of the state of Illinois seems to be regular in form and authentic, and it appears therefrom that Kamala D. Harris of the state of California received 19 votes for president, and Tim Walz of the state of Minnesota received 19 votes for vice president.
Madam President, the certificate of the electoral vote of the state of Indiana seems to be regular in form and authentic, and it appears therefrom that Donald J. Trump of the state of Florida received 11 votes for president, and J.D. Vance of the state of Ohio received 11 votes for vice president.
Madam President, the certificate of the electoral vote of the state of Iowa seems to be regular in form and authentic, and it appears therefrom that Donald J. Trump of the state of Florida received 6 votes for president, and J.D. Vance of the state of Ohio received 6 votes for vice president.
Madam President, the certificate of the electoral vote of the state of Kansas seems to be regular in form and authentic, and it appears therefrom that Donald J. Trump of the state of Florida received 6 votes for president, and J.D. Vance of the state of Ohio received 6 votes for vice president.
Madam President, the certificate of the electoral vote of the Commonwealth of Kentucky seems to be regular in form and authentic, and appears therefrom that Donald J. Trump of the state of Florida received 8 votes for president, and J.D. Vance of the state of Ohio received 8 votes for vice president.
Madam President, the certificate of the electoral vote of the state of Louisiana seems to be regular in form and authentic, and it appears therefrom that Donald J. Trump of the state of Florida received 8 votes for president, and J.D. Vance of the state of Ohio received 8 votes for vice president.
Madam President, the certificate of the electoral vote of the state of Maine seems to be regular in form and authentic, and it appears therefrom that Kamala D. Harris of the state of California received 3 votes for president, and Donald J. Trump of the state of Florida received 1 vote for president, and Tim Walz of the state of Minnesota received 3 votes for vice president, and J.D. Vance of the state of Ohio received 1 vote for vice president.
Of course,
Madam
California. Thank you for tuning in, ladies and
The
gentlemen.
electoral vote of the state of Maryland seems to be regular in form and authentic, and it appears therefrom that Kamala D. Harris of the state of California received 10 votes for president, and Tim Walz of the state of Minnesota received 10 votes for vice president.
Madam President, the certificate of the electoral vote of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts seems to be regular in form and authentic, and it appears therefrom that Kamala D. Harris of the state of California received 11 votes for president, and Tim Walz of the state of Minnesota received 11 votes for vice president.
Madam President, the certificate of the electoral vote of the state of Michigan seems to be regular in form and authentic, and it appears therefrom that Donald J. Trump of the state of Florida received 15 votes for president, and J.D. Vance of the state of Ohio received 15 votes for vice president. Madam President, the certificate of the electoral vote of the state of Minnesota seems to be regular in form and authentic, and it appears therefrom that Kamala D. Harris of the state of California received 10 votes for president, and Tim Walz of the state of Minnesota received 10 votes for vice president.
Nobody cares, okay? Trump is the OG. Bye.
Madam President, the certificate of the electoral vote of the state of Mississippi seems to be regular in form and authentic, and it appears therefrom that Donald J. Trump of the state of Florida received 6 votes for president, and J.D. Vance of the state of Ohio received 6 votes for vice president.
Madam President, the certificate of the electoral vote of the state of Missouri seems to be regular in form and authentic, and it appears therefrom that Donald J. Trump of the state of Florida received 10 votes for president, and J.D. Vance of the state of Ohio received 10 votes for vice president.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Madam President, the certificate of the electoral vote of the state of Montana seems to be regular in form and authentic, and it appears therefrom that Donald J. Trump of the state of Florida received 4 votes for president, and J.D. Vance of the state of Ohio received 4 votes for vice president.
Certify that bad boy right there.
Madam President, the certificate of the electoral vote of the state of Nebraska seems to be regular in form and authentic, and it appears therefrom that Donald J. Trump of the state of Florida received 4 votes for president, and Kamala D. Harris of the state of California received 1 vote for president, and J.D. Vance of the state of Ohio received 4 votes for vice president, and Tim Walz of the state of Minnesota received 1 vote for vice president. Madam President, the certificate of the electoral vote of the state of Nevada seems to be regular in form and authentic, and it appears therefrom that Donald J. Trump of the state of Florida received 6 votes for president, and J.D. Vance of the state of Ohio received 6 votes for vice president.
Madam President, the certificate of the electoral vote of the state of New Hampshire seems to be regular in form and authentic, and it appears therefrom that Kamala D. Harris of the state of California received 4 votes for president, and Tim Walz of the state of Minnesota received 4 votes for vice president.
Madam President, the certificate of the electoral vote of the state of New Jersey seems to be regular in form and authentic, and it appears therefrom that Kamala D. Harris of the state of California received 14 votes for president, and Tim Walz of the state of Minnesota received 14 votes for vice president.
Madam President, the certificate of the electoral vote of the state of New Mexico seems to be regular in form and authentic, and it appears therefrom that Kamala D. Harris of the state of California received 5 votes for president, and Tim Walz of the state of Minnesota received 5 votes for vice president. Madam President, the certificate of the electoral vote of the state of New York seems to be regular in form and authentic, and it appears therefrom that Kamala D. Harris of the state of California received 28 votes for president. Tim Walz of the state of Minnesota received 28 votes for vice president.
Madam President, the certificate of the electoral vote of the state of North Carolina seems to be regular in form and authentic, and it appears therefrom that Donald J. Trump of the state of Florida received 16 votes for president, and J.D. Vance of the state of Ohio received 16 votes for vice president.
Thank you for tuning in to the live show. You know what time it is. It is your boy Genesis. Somebody just asked me in the chat saying, how does she feel standing right there listening to herself lose? Pretty cool, man, because, you know, she knows she already lost. There's no point. But it's just to certify her loss is just wild. And to certify her loss to a convicted felon, okay? Trump is supposed to be a convicted felon. He's supposed to be a threat to democracy. He's supposed to be a Nazi or whatever. And she's going to certify this man as the president, the next president of the United States, the 47th. with everything they did to him not to be the 47th. He's still going to be the 47th. OG status.
Madam President, the certificate of the electoral vote of the state of North Dakota seems to be regular in form and authentic, and it appears therefrom that Donald J. Trump of the state of Florida received 3 votes for president, and J.D. Vance of the state of Ohio received 3 votes for vice president.
Madam President, the certificate of the electoral vote of the state of Ohio seems to be regular in form and authentic, and it appears therefrom that Donald J. Trump of the state of Florida received 17 votes for president, and J.D. Vance of the state of Ohio received 17 votes for vice president.
Madam President, the certificate of the electoral vote of the state of Oklahoma seems to be regular in form and authentic, and it appears therefrom that Donald J. Trump of the state of Florida received 7 votes for president, and J.D. Vance of the state of Ohio received 7 votes for vice president.
Madam President, the certificate of the electoral vote of the state of Oregon seems to be regular in form and authentic, and it appears therefrom that Kamala D. Harris of the state of California received 8 votes for president, and Tim Walz of the state of Minnesota received 8 votes for vice president.
Madam President, the certificate of the electoral vote of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania seems to be regular in form and authentic, and it appears therefrom that Donald J. Trump of the state of Florida received 19 votes for president, and J.D. Vance of the state of Ohio received 19 votes for vice president.
Madam President, the certificate of the electoral vote.
What are they doing calling her Madam President? What is going on right here? Why are they calling Kamala Harris Madam President? She's not Madam President, ladies and gentlemen. And I just saw right here, the U.S. Sun newspaper just said, outrage as Kamala Harris called Madam President by Democratic senators during certification of Trump's election win. Why are they calling her Madam President? No, like, what are you doing? She is Madam Vice President. These Democrat leaders, man, come on. You lost. Take the L and move on.
The state of Rhode Island seems to be regular in form and authentic, and it appears therefrom that Kamala D. Harris of the state of California received 4 votes for president, and Tim Walz of the state of Minnesota received 4 votes for vice president.
Madam President, the certificate of the electoral vote of the state of South Carolina seems to be regular in form and authentic, and it appears therefrom that Donald J. Trump of the state of Florida received 9 votes for president, and J.D. Vance of the state of Ohio received 9 votes for vice president.
Madam President, the certificate of the electoral vote of the state of South Dakota seems to be regular in form and authentic, and it appears therefrom that Donald J. Trump of the state of Florida received 3 votes for president, and J.D. Vance of the state of Ohio received 3 votes for vice president.
So I see a lot of people saying she is the president of the Senate and then the vice president of the United States. You're absolutely right. However, you are certifying the next president of the United States. So when you say Madam President, it's like, okay, what are we doing? The Democrat leaders in here, they're intentionally saying Madam President to kind of sway us away. But I get what you're saying. She is the president of the Senate. She's the president of the Senate and the vice president of the United States. Same thing with J.D. Vance when he becomes the vice president. He will be the president of the Senate and vice president of the United States. However, the Democratic leaders in here are saying Madam President with so much prejudice.
Madam President, the certificate of the electoral vote of the state of Tennessee seems to be regular in form and authentic, and it appears therefrom that Donald J. Trump of the state of Florida received 11 votes for president, and J.D. Vance of the state of Ohio received 11 votes for vice president.
Madam President, the certificate of the electoral vote of the state of Texas seems to be regular in form and authentic, and it appears therefrom that Donald J. Trump of the state of Florida received 40 votes for president, and J.D. Vance of the state of Ohio received 40 votes for vice president.
Madam President, the certificate of the electoral vote of the state of Utah seems to be regular in form and authentic, and it appears therefrom that Donald J. Trump of the state of Florida received 6 votes for president, and J.D. Vance from the state of Ohio received 6 votes for vice president.
Madam President, the certificate of the electoral vote of the state of Vermont seems to be regular in form and authentic, and it appears therefrom that Kamala D. Harris of the state of California received 3 votes for president, and Tim Walz of the state of Minnesota received 3 votes for vice president.
Madam President, the certificate of the electoral vote of the Commonwealth of Virginia seems to be regular in form and authentic, and it appears therefrom that Kamala D. Harris of the state of California received 13 votes for president, and Tim Walz of the state of Minnesota received 13 votes for vice president.
Madam President, the certificate of the electoral vote of the state of Washington seems to be regular in form and authentic, and it appears therefrom that Kamala D. Harris of the state of California received 12 votes for president, and Tim Walz of the state of Minnesota received 12 votes for vice president.
Madam President, the certificate of the electoral vote of the state of West Virginia seems to be regular in form and authentic, and it appears therefrom that Donald J. Trump of the state of Florida received 4 votes for president, and J.D. Vance of the state of Ohio received 4 votes for vice president.
Madam President, the certificate of the electoral vote of the great state of Wisconsin seems to be regular in form and authentic, and it appears therefrom that Donald J. Trump of the state of Florida received 10 votes for president, and J.D. Vance of the state of Ohio received 10 votes for vice president.
Madam President, the certificate of the electoral vote of the state of Wyoming seems to be regular in form.
Thank you for tuning into the live stream. You know what time it is. It is your boy Genesis. For people just tuning in and listening, and you're hearing Madam President, okay? Madam President. For people just tuning in, hearing Madam President, she is the president of the Senate, okay? For the people who are saying Genesis, choose the president of Senate, yes, we know. Everybody knows the vice president of the United States is the designated president of the Senate. However, She is certifying the next president of the United States, who happens to be the legend, the OG. 45th, now the 47th, President Donald J. Trump. Okay, so same Madam President to certify the president. I don't get it, but I get it. Okay, I get it. Okay, I get it. I get it. But go on ahead and certify the legend.
And it appears therefrom that Donald J. Trump of the state of Florida received 3 votes for president, and J.D. Vance of the state of Ohio received 3 votes for vice president.
Members of Congress, the certificates having been read, the tellers will ascertain and deliver the result to the President of the Senate.
The undersigned, Deb Fisher and Amy Klobuchar, tellers on the part of the Senate, and Brian Steele and Joseph Morelli, tellers on the part of the House of Representatives, report the following as the result of the ascertainment and counting of the electoral vote for President and Vice President of the United States for the term beginning on the 20th day of January, 2025.
The state of the vote for the President of the United States as delivered to the President of the Senate is as follows. The whole number of the electors appointed to vote for President of the United States is 538. Within that whole number, the majority is 270. The votes for President of the United States are as follows. Donald J. Trump of the state of Florida has received 312 votes. Kamala D. Harris Kamala D. Harris of the state of California has received 226 votes. The whole number of electors appointed to vote for Vice President of the United States is 538. Within that whole number, a majority is 270. The votes for Vice President of the United States are as follows. J.D. Vance of the state of Ohio has received 312 votes.
I mean J.D. Vance. Oh God. It's just like, listen to me, y'all. Listen to me, y'all. Yeah, you lost. Yeah, we told you were gonna lose. We told you were going to lose, Mrs. Coconut Tree. We told you we did not fall from Coconut Tree. We told you, didn't we? We told you were gonna lose. And yeah, you are lost.
Tim Walz of the state of Minnesota has received 226 votes.
Yo, somebody in the chat said, yo, man, W's in the chat right now. Somebody in the chat said, report the landslide, Kamala. Just report the landslide. That's all we need. Just say, Donald J. Trump won by a landslide. Case closed.
This announcement of the state of the vote by the President of the Senate shall be deemed a sufficient declaration of the persons elected, President and Vice President of the United States, each for a term beginning on the 20th day of January, 2025, and shall be entered together with the list of the votes on the journals of the House and the Senate. Thank you very much.
It's over, guys. She certified the situation. The legend, the OG, the 45th, now the 47th, Donald J. Trump.
The purpose of the joint Senate having been concluded pursuant to Senate Concurrent Resolution Number 2, the 119th Congress, the chair declares this joint session dissolved. Thank you.
She couldn't wait to get out of there. She could not wait to get out of there. Oh, my dear Lord. Oh, my dear Lord. You lost Kami. Kami, Kamala. You lost Kami. You lost it. So, Lady LGBT 47, y'all did everything. They did everything to stop Donald Trump, yet he still won. This is like a blow to the face. You did everything. You had Beyonce. You had Taylor Swift. Oh, yeah, the Swifties. You had Samuel L. Jackson. You had Eminem, one of the greatest rappers of all time. You had Oprah Winfrey. Who else did she have? Chat, put it in the chat. Who else did she employ to campaign for her? Everybody. Jennifer Lopez, Fat Joe, Usher, who? Megan Thee Stallion. Everybody campaigned for this lady right here. Billions of dollars spent. Hundreds of millions of dollars spent on campaign, private jets, and all that stuff. And guess what? She still lost. She lost. Feels good to say she lost, ladies and gentlemen. Because I was making mouth here on the live stream around July, August, September. I was saying the legend, the OG, the 45th, now the 47th. No, then I was saying the 45th, most likely going to be the 47th, Donald J. Trump. Now I can proudly say the 45th, now the 47th. The 40 freaking 7th. Yeah, what they talking about? What they talking about? It's over, guys. She ran out. She ran out. She couldn't take it anymore. She certified the legend. She certified the legend, and she couldn't take it anymore. She ran out to say, you know what? I am done with this. Okay, I am done with this. I will not be staying here to enjoy the party because it's a party. Okay, it's a party. For the folks at the back,
Vance of the state of
let
Ohio.
me pause this. All right, so it's a wonderful day, ladies and gentlemen. J6, 4 years ago, they tried to make it seem like it's a bad thing to have January 6th in this United States of America. Now we're here, 4 years later, the OG, the rightful president of the United States, the rightful president of the United States is back in the White House. Back. All right. And guess what? It's only 14 days before he puts his hand on the Bible and say, I pledge. Okay. Inauguration in 16 days, ladies and gentlemen. Congress certifies Trump's 2024 election win. It is over, ladies and gentlemen. It is over. Kamala finally gave up and said, you know what? It's over. It is over. It is absolutely over. God is great. Thank you to everybody who voted for the OG, for the legend, for Donald J. Trump. You guys are the best. Without your vote, Trump would not be president today. But you voted, you stayed in line. You stayed in line, you voted, you stayed true to your vote, you counted, you wait, you watched your vote, and now you're reaping the rewards. Trump is the 47th president of the United States. And as you all know, guess what? Justin Trudeau also stepped down. Justin Trudeau stepped down and is almost over for the far left. Anybody on the far left, it's almost over for you. If you're on the far left spectrum of politics, okay? Far left. You could be in the middle, okay? You could be left. But far left, you are done for. Okay, you are done for. Justin Trudeau resigns, okay? Shout out to Canada. God bless Canada, because greatness is coming to Canada. You know what time it is. FAFO, 5-4. F around and find out. You're going to know what time it is. Nobody wants smoke at this point. Nobody wants smoke with the OG, with the legend, with the 45th. Some people say it was even the 46th. Now definitely the 47th. Okay. Definitely the 47th. Let's get it. And Biden is blocking oil. Why is he blocking oil from being taken from the ground? From drilling oil. This man is blocking oil drilling.
Well, later today, on January 6th, Congress is going to will certify Mark's President-elect Trump's election results, and President Biden wasting no time cementing his far-left climate legacy with a last-ditch effort permanently banning offshore drilling in most U.S. waters. Incoming White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt joins us right now. Caroline, good morning to you.
Good morning. Good to see you, Steve.
It's good to see you. So on the way out, in his last 2 weeks, what he's trying to do is he's trying to slow down Donald Trump, isn't he?
Mm-hmm. That's exactly right. This is a disgraceful decision by the Biden administration. And I say the administration because we all know Joe Biden doesn't know what's going on. This isn't him. This is the radical left environmental extremists in his administration who don't care about what's in the best interest of the American people who just reelected President Trump with a resounding mandate to drill, baby, drill. This decision, the intent behind it is to exact political revenge on the American people and on President Trump to try to slow down.
Why will Biden place a ban on drilling? Why? Why is he doing this? Look at his face, ladies and gentlemen. Look at his face. Biden places new drilling ban over U.S. waters. What are you doing, Joe? Dear Joe, what are you doing? It's time to go in 14 days, and this is what you do? This is what you do. You have 14 days to get out, and you're doing this. You're doing, like, he's done more in this last 2 weeks, last 3 weeks, than his whole 4 years career. Actually, 4 years presidency. It's like, what is this? Now you want to work? Now you want to actually do some work? You had 4 years to work. You were on the beach. You were on the beach taking a nice nap. Now you're placing ban on new drilling over U.S. water? Bro, this ain't. Well, I just hope Trump's executive orders can get it out of the way, because this goes against drill, baby, drill. These goes against drill, baby, drill policy, okay? Look at his face. He wants to sabotage Trump's administration and his prosperity for Americans.
His administration and make it harder to implement the agenda that he campaigned. campaigned on. But the good news is President Trump is going to get to work to day one. His administration will look at how we can rescind this radical order and expedite permits for drilling and for fracking to bring down the cost of living and energy in this country. That's what he campaigned on, and the American people can expect President Trump to deliver on that promise. He will not be deterred.
Well, and here's the thing, Caroline. Apparently, a lot of these lands, and we're talking about the East Coast, the West Coast, down the Gulf Coast, and up around the Bering Sea, a lot of these areas, gas refiners have not really had any interest in developing anyway. But nonetheless, it's just symbolic. And I know it's going to be challenged in court, and I know that Republicans can change the law. But still, for him to do it in the last 2 weeks, rather than his first 2 weeks, it speaks volumes.
Mm-hmm. It does. As I said, this is the Biden administration simply trying to throw a sucker punch at President Trump on Joe Biden's way out the door.
Right.
But this is going to be Joe Biden's legacy, not doing what's in the best interest for the American people to bring down the cost of living and inflation that has been robbing them of their hard-earned paychecks every week. No, it's about throwing stones at those who don't believe in their ideology. It's about being anti-Trump, not pro-America. But that's all going to change on January 20th, rest assured.
And that is exactly 2 weeks from today. Now, today, January 6th, this is a day when, according to our laws, they've got to certify the presidential election. What is throwing kind of a monkey wrench into things, Caroline, is the fact that it's a snow day in Washington, and the federal government technically is closed. The schools are closed. But Republican leaders said, hey, members of Congress who are Republicans, make sure you stay in town over the weekend, and most of them did. Democrats left town. But nonetheless, it sounds like there will be enough Republicans in the Capitol today to certify the election.
Mm-hmm. Yes, indeed. And they must do so because President Trump received a resounding mandate on November 5th, 312 Electoral College votes. He won the popular vote, and the American people want him to get to work from 2 weeks from today. So let's certify this election. And then Congress needs to immediately get to work to start drafting a big, beautiful bill that needs to make its way to President Trump's desk as soon as possible. He wants one package to make America safe and wealthy again, to include border security measures, more funding for Border Patrol and ICE so that they can hire more people to help implement the mass deportations that President Trump promised and the American people elected him to implement. And this package also needs to include critical tax relief. We must extend the Trump tax cuts and add President Trump's signature campaign promise to end taxes on tips. Republicans need to get tough and smart, stick together, send this bill to the Resolute desk. President Trump will be there to sign it in a couple of weeks.
Caroline, I got to ask you one more question because you just brought up something that was brand new news last night, and that is President Trump has thrown his weight behind this idea of just one bill, one big, beautiful bill by Memorial Day. I know there are a lot of top Republicans who have said it's got to be two bills because you want to get border and you want to get energy done real fast. But taxes are going to take it, up. It's going to take months to argue about that and figure that out. So what happened? Why did they change their minds?
Mm-hmm. Well, President Trump is the leader of the Republican Party. He has officially weighed in on this as of last night. He wants one bill, and Republicans need to get it done. We must stand strong together. The American people just reelected President Trump again with a resounding mandate to implement these promises that he made to them. They are needing critical relief in both the form of border security to end the invasion of illegal immigrants that we've seen at our southern border over the past 4 years. They want mass deportations. That's why Congress needs to provide that critical funding for Border Patrol. But simultaneously, tax relief is just as high as a priority. President Trump campaigned on that as well. So one bill to President Trump's desk. That's what he wants. Republicans need to get it done.
Okay, indeed. Caroline, thank you very much for joining.
Just think about the fact that this woman right here, she's probably, 27 years old or 24? I don't know for sure. But she's in her 20s, maybe mid-20s. She's going to be the new press secretary. No more Karine Jean-Pierre. No more Karine Jean-Pierre, ladies and gentlemen. This smart, well-spoken, skillful communicator, articulate human being is going to be the new press secretary. Yeah, no more. I can't talk for the president. I can't answer that for the president. We're going to have to come back on that one. because you have someone who actually knows what time it is. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, the OG has been certified as the president of the United States. So now we're waiting on inauguration. Now, some people don't know this man, Trump, look, I'm telling you, Trump wants to do a victory rally in Washington, D.C. on the 19th of January. Now, do you think that is advisable? Do you think it is advisable for him to do a victory rally on the 19th, just before the inauguration? Look, personally, I think it's not safe, but Trump is a very strong figure. He does what he wants to do. He doesn't, he doesn't really answer to anybody except God. Okay. Just like any man in the world should be like. You should only answer to one man in heaven, God. Okay. Whoever else, don't be out there answering to no man else. Okay. No answer to nobody else but God. But this man would not listen to anybody if anybody tells him don't do the victory rally on the 19th in Washington D.C. He would do it. So the only thing left now is for Secret Service, FBI, law enforcement officers to protect this man with everything they have, because he would not do the victory rally on the 19th. What do we have here in the chat? Double tap your screen, subscribe to the channel. Let's get it. Okay, what do we have here? What do we have going on here, guys?
President-elect Trump slamming Judge Merchan's decision to sentence him in New York City on Friday, posting this quote on Truth Social: "The legal system is broken, and businesses can't take a chance in getting caught up in this quicksand. It's all rigged. It's this case against a political opponent, me." And while DA Alvin Bragg and Merchan have their sights set on Trump, they're ignoring the rampant crime in New York City. I'm not kidding. Fox News legal analyst Craig Jarrett writes Merchan is desperate to brand Trump as a convicted felon before his inauguration. He joins us now. Greg, you believe, and the president believes, this is personal.
Oh, absolutely. I think Merchan is desperate to stain the incoming president with the label convicted felon. And understand, Brian, under the law, Trump is not officially convicted of anything until he's formally sentenced, even though many in the media, of course, began immediately and incorrectly calling him a convicted felon when the jury verdict came in. And that was the whole goal of indicting Trump and putting him on trial. Democrats assumed their political...
Ladies and gentlemen, don't forget, this man has not been convicted of anything as of today, okay? However, on the 10th of this month, which is in 4 days now, he is going to be sentenced with no penalties, meaning no fine, no jail time, no prison time, no nothing. You just want to have that convicted felon into the White House status for Trump. That's all they're trying to do, because they're saying we're going to sentence this man without penalties. That's what the judge said in New York. So what are you trying to do? You're not going to let this guy pay any fine. You're not going to let this guy do any jail time, no prison time, no nothing, no fine, no fee, no nothing. So it's like, what are you doing? You just want him to be a convicted felon so you can say he was the first convicted felon president of the United States. That's all they want. After this man got over 76 million votes, after he won every swing state, after he won every not every electoral college, but he won, he won electoral college popular vote, all swing states. And they're still taking this man to court. Why Hunter Biden, who made video evidence, okay? Hunter Biden made video evidence of him sniffing. Sniffing Hunter Biden. Made videos. Solid evidence. Okay? With ladies and with substances. Everywhere. It's easy. You can find it on Google. You just Google Hunter Biden and evidence. Okay? He filmed himself. Okay? Doing stuff. The president's son, Joe Biden, filmed himself doing stuff. And guess what Joe Biden did? After promising he would not pardon his son, he would let the Department of Justice do their thing. He would let the jury or a jury of his peer do their duty. He turned around and did what? Pardoned his son. Now, you now have a duly elected president of the United States, Donald J. Trump, who 76 million plus voted for, won all swing state, popular vote, Electoral College, was given a mandate. A former president, the 45th president of the United States, about to be sentenced by a New York judge. By a New York judge, ladies and gentlemen. While Hunter Biden left evidence. You don't even have to search for the evidence. Hunter already helped you, filmed it. He filmed the evidence for you. But his father said, F all of that. F all of that. I got you, son. I am the president of the United States. And you, my son, Hunter Biden, are above. You, my son, Hunter Biden, you are above the law. But nobody's above the law, Democrat screams. Nobody is above the law. Democrats screams on top of their lungs. Nobody, even Trump, is not above the law. Well, Hunter Biden and dear Joe Biden. In fact, the Biden family is above the law.
Politically driven lawfare campaign would destroy him. Instead, it had the opposite effect. Voters saw it for what it was, a corrupt weaponization of the law, and it backfired spectacularly. Many Americans recognized this was a sham trial, a preordained outcome. It drove a lot of them to Donald Trump, and he won.
Right, and it dominated the election cycle. It just put to the side his whole primary challenge, and he, for better or for worse, he just dominated it. I know he just wants it over with and doesn't want to relive it, but just think about the consistency or the lack thereof. When you come to New York City and Alvin Bragg, another George Soros-funded DA who thinks criminal first, if you look at their misdemeanor and their downgrades, look at this full screen. You had 2,365 misdemeanor.
Somebody said in the chat, am I going to talk about Trump's son? Trump's son did make a video of him using substances, hard drugs, okay, and with supposed, sex workers. Okay, you can do what you want to do. Closed doors, Hunter. Hunter, do what you want to do. Closed doors. You don't have to film it. Okay, you don't have to be a spoiled, rich son of the president. You don't have to do these things because this is what he did. He could have just enjoyed himself without filming it. But he did film it. Why? Because my daddy is a big dog. That's what it means. My daddy is a big dog. That's what, when you know your dad is a big dog, this is what you do. You say and do things and leave evidence because you know nobody can put you in jail or prison. That's what happened to Hunter Biden. You would never see a Trump son do that kind of stuff because, your daddy ain't even free from the law. Trump ain't even free from the law because they're going to sue Trump. Now think about his son. straight to jail. If it was Trump Jr., straight to jail. Straight up to jail. But Hunter Biden filmed, left evidence, and his daddy said, I'm never gonna pardon him if a jury of his peers finds him guilty. I'm gonna let the Justice Department do what they want to do. I respect the United States justice system. 2 seconds later, dun dun, SpongeBob. Dun dun, 2 seconds later, I will pardon my son because it's now a warfare. Really? It's a political warfare right now. So Trump's indictment wasn't a political warfare? Huh? It wasn't? For real? Well, now Trump is back in 14 days and everybody is getting a lawsuit. Look, it is almost for sure that everybody is getting a lawsuit. Liz Cheney is getting a lawsuit. What's her name? Hillary Clinton is getting a lawsuit. Matter of fact, Joe Biden is going to be investigated because Trump, one thing everybody knows about Trump is he could tell you success will be his revenge, which it will be, but the people around Trump, they ain't letting this slide. This ain't gonna slide. Okay, none of this is going to slide because they allowed him spend unnecessary money, unnecessary energy, unnecessary time while he was campaigning to be the 47th. So they're gonna have to spend some check too. So you're gonna spend some money, pay some lawyers, and you're gonna have to do what you're gonna have to do. So you two didn't give Trump some rest while he wasn't the president of the United States. He was going from courthouses to courthouses. Well, get ready to go from courthouses to courthouses, ladies and gentlemen.
Misdemeanors were downgraded from felonies. He had 2,188 to a violation of 1,193. So you have a situation where serious crimes are downgraded. When it comes to Trump, they put all these misdemeanors together to make it a felony and put him on trial.
Yeah, and it's, one of the reasons why these George Soros-funded progressive district attorneys have ruined major cities in blue states. And, Alvin Bragg is a prime example. If you're Trump, a misdemeanor business records violation somehow becomes a phantom felony. And in the end, nobody actually knew what he was convicted of. And it wasn't a unanimous jury verdict, the best we can tell. Nobody really knows. A bedrock violation. Bragg goes after, good Samaritans like Daniel Penny or a bodega worker.
Guys are not getting. Somebody in the chat just asked me, so you mean to tell me if you could get your child out of something you wouldn't? I guess you're the only person that wouldn't. Did I ever say I would not get my daughter, my beautiful, gorgeous, smart, brave 5-year-old daughter out of anything? Did I ever say that? No. But Joe Biden said he wouldn't. Okay? He said he would not. And then 2 seconds later, SpongeBob, dun, he took him out. He said, you know what? I'm going to pardon my son. I will pardon my son. Like, if you ask me, I would never say I wouldn't pardon my daughter. Why would I not pardon my daughter? This is my flesh and blood. In whom I am well pleased. Okay? I am well pleased. Just like God is well pleased in Jesus, I am well pleased in my daughter. Okay? I would never say I would not pardon my daughter. But your great Joe Biden said he would never pardon his son. He would let the jury and the Department of Justice handle it. And then he interfered.
Who dared to defend himself when he was attacked. And he goes after a politician for purely political reasons. This is what Alvin Bragg has wrought to New York City.
So Monday, today, the election gets certified. Friday, they want him looking like he's a convicted criminal. But bottom line is that helped fuel the president's popularity Eventually, of course, he'll probably appeal it. You said you need a conviction in order to appeal it, a sentence in order to appeal it. So maybe this is a painful part of the process that ultimately lead to its exoneration. Thanks, and you write about it on FoxNews.com. Thanks, Greg.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to
Thank you for tuning in into the live show. You know what time it is. It is your boy Genesis. Ladies and gentlemen, the legend has been certified as the next president of the United States. Inauguration is in 14 days. Are you guys going to Washington, D.C.? Are you going to Washington, D.C.? I think it's by invitation. You have to have some invitation. There's been a change here. You have to have IV tickets. So somebody
And
was
Chuck
okay,
Schumer
let's
doesn't
watch
do
this.
many interviews either. Yesterday he was on, and he was asked about could Joe Biden have served another 4 years. He said,
Absolutely
it doesn't matter, it's
not.
hypothetical. He also said this.
I want to play you a little bit of something you said last year. Take a look.
I talk to President Biden, regularly, sometimes several times in a week, or usually several times in a week. His mental acuity is great. It's fine. It's as good as it's been over the years. All this right-wing propaganda that his mental acuity has declined is wrong.
Leader Schumer, what do you say to Americans who feel as though you and other top Democrats misled them about President Biden's mental acuity?
Look, we didn't, and let's look at President Biden. He's had an amazing record. When he stepped down, he did it on his own because he thought it was better not only for the Democratic Party, for America. We should all salute him.
Just like Trudeau.
No one believes that.
No one believes it. And if you look at the president, even that outburst of the press, which I don't even know what he means about talking about world leaders.
he should know more world leaders than anybody.
This is just part of the job, but the anger and the symptoms that he's displaying, exactly.
I don't like that.
It's the thing that we've all seen with people that we love that have gone through this period of time in their life. And the fact that no one in his inner circle, his wife, the children will say, Dad, it's time to hang it up. And they were prepared to let him be president for another 4 years. It just speaks to the power hungerness in Washington. It's so sad to witness what we're seeing of a president. He still has some new codes.
I'm angry.
Well, here's the thing. Kristen Welker asked a great question, set it up with Chuck Schumer's own words. And the reason he was dismissive of her premise is because she was right. And they, the people who protected Joe Biden's cognitive decline, have been caught. And that's why it's so curious. If the guy is on the, way down, he's spinning out of control. He's just not the guy he was 4 years ago. Why is he still president? Why didn't they, invoke the 25th Amendment months ago?
Should have.
Years ago. Kamala Harris would be historic. She would have been the first president.
She wouldn't have beat Trump.
Female president, that is to say.
She wouldn't have beat Trump.
Brian, I'm saying had
he resigned.
the 25th Amendment, they replaced him. But they've all been caught. Everybody in Democrat world has got a lot of explaining to do, and they will have to in the next year.
Do they not love this country more than that, though? I mean, to lie to us and tell us he was fine. They were just going to prop him up like Weekend at Bernie's and just make us all believe that he was in the game and in the party. I mean, it's just, it's not fair to the American people. It's not fair to the soldiers whose lives are on the line when he's the commander-in-chief.
Because, by the way, on Afghanistan, that was solely his decision. Jake Sullivan saying that, I feel bad. I offered to resign because I was unable to execute the president's decision. So Blinken wasn't his idea, although he says he's no regrets. It was his sole decision to have the worst catastrophe in American military history. Jonathan Martin, network anchor and commentator, said, well, why don't one of the people that was the chief of staff for Kamala Harris yesterday, Simone Sanders, came out and said, he's fine. People should defend him better. And Jonathan Martin says, well, it's not worth defending. Because at every turn over the last year and a half, he has taken the path of the most indulgent turn for himself, rather than what's good for the party by running, by pardoning his son, and now some of his choices in the middle of freedom. Wow. You would never have gotten that a year ago. And then yesterday, a couple of weeks ago, he was asked about getting hostages out. He came back and said, do you think you can keep from getting hit in the head with a camera behind you? What does that mean?
Yeah.
So just that answer was a non sequitur.
Yeah, but why?
He was not even asked about that.
I get very little credit to the people that are talking about this now. According to the reports, and the Wall Street Journal has done extensive reporting, they knew a year into his presidency that they were crafting the cabinet meetings so he didn't have to answer questions. It was that, and now they want to talk about it after he's lost, after he fell apart in front of the entire country for the debate. Right. It's way too late to be talking about
These
this.
two speeches are going to be ugly that he gives.
It's terrible.
Well, and it'll be curious to see how he explains the withdrawal from Afghanistan if it's all about foreign policy. But here's the thing.
I think I can conclude that the Democrats, some of them don't love the United States. I'm not saying every one of them. Some of them do not love the United States. Because how can you be so far left that you would say that Joe Biden can actually run a country like the United States? The United States is known to be the greatest nation on earth. And then you're saying Joe Biden, that is falling off stairs, sleeping in Angola on the world stage, going into the Amazon forest, literally going into the Amazon forest. Oh, God. This man is literally walking into the Amazon forest. Like, he's going to the lions. He's going to the lions, ladies and gentlemen. I'm telling y'all, man, this man was literally going to the lions, to the hyenas, to the wild dogs. They had to say, Mr. President, please, sir, come back here. Mr. Joe Biden.
He gave an interview about a week ago while we were on vacation, and he feels in his heart of hearts
that he would have won.
He would have beaten Donald Trump had he not been, stabbed in the back by Nancy Pelosi and all the other Democrats. But then again, it's just one of those things.
If he keeps calling out Nancy Pelosi, she's going to come out and say, by the way, you're mentally failing, and it's going to get even uglier.
Yeah.
Just wait till the stories come out about how little he actually did and how many 26-year-olds running liberal lefties were running around running the country.
Yeah.
Well, the Democrats who hid.
Somebody said in the chat, they're not lions or hyenas in the Amazon rainforest. Seriously, bro. So whatever is there, this is the thing about Democrat. The thing about Democrat is, out of everything I just said right now, he did not hear me say that his beloved Joe Biden president was going into the Amazon rainforest. The only thing he heard me say was lions and hyenas. He wants to correct me. He wants to correct me about lions and hyenas, but would not talk about the president of the greatest nation on earth, United States, was going, literally walking into the Amazon rainforest. And I didn't know, Dana, I did not know that Jill Biden was a babysitter before Joe Biden married her. So she was a babysitter. Well, damn. Well, damn. What? I guess. Like father, like son, ladies and gentlemen. I didn't know it was like father, like son, Dana. I'm sorry. So Jill Biden was a babysitter for Hunter. And then after Joe Biden's wife passed, he married Jill. Is that what happened? Or he divorced his then wife and then married the babysitter? Yeah, Dana is like the OG in this chat. So she knows a lot. She's not a baby, okay? She knows. She's probably lived a longer life than everybody in this chat. Okay, so she knows. Dana definitely knows. Dana, spill the tea, Dana. Spill the tea. Spill the tea, Dana. Spill the tea. No one is walking into the Amazon rainforest. He's done a lot. Oh man, y'all talking about she was killed in a really suspicious car crash. Y'all think Jill? Look. Okay, don't blame Jill Biden for the crash. Okay, do not blame Jill Biden for the crash. God, y'all relax.
But just a few hours from now, Congress will officially certify the results of the 2024 election. And presiding in her role as Vice President Harris, she's going to have to do it.
So she has a unique role today, and not the first VP to certify her own loss. Mike Pence, Al Gore, Richard Nixon all did the same thing in their jobs.
Yep. And meanwhile, their speaker is in place. Republicans are turning their attention to Trump's day one agenda. So priorities include securing the border, stopping illegal immigration, restoring law and order, and boosting national security to start.
The president-elect wants all this included in one massive bill. Speaker Mike Johnson on Sunday telling Maria that Republicans are locked in on it.
Beginning immediately, we want to make sure that we're jump-starting the agenda now over the next 2 weeks so that he's prepared and ready on day one.
Let's bring in Kayleigh McEnany. She is with us, and Happy New Year to you. Great to have you here. This was interesting to us. We woke up and Susie Wiles, the incoming chief of staff for President Trump, had done an interview with Axios, and she says this about the first 100 days. I have every hope that the 47th administration will not have the same number of attempts to put sand in the gears. We are off to a fast start with congressional work, hiring the best people, preliminary discussion with heads of state, fine-tuning his policy agenda, and planning for the first 100 days. And hitting the ground running and realizing that you don't have as much time as you think that you do is really important here.
I think she realizes that. Look, she was instrumental in that floor vote to make Mike Johnson House Speaker. We remember the screenshot of Marjorie Taylor Greene's cell phone where you saw Susie Wiles on there. So she was making calls to members of Congress to get Mike Johnson across the finish line. It also stands out to me, Donald Trump Jr. recently said in an interview, I think we're more ready this time than if we would have had a second term consecutively. Yeah. You think about what President Trump has done over the last 4 years. He's had time to sit back, think about his policy agenda, think about his personnel and be ready to go.
I think this whole comment about sand in the gears is very true for January, February, March of 2017, and later you were on his team as well. I thought by the way, Susie Wiles, I don't think she has done an interview during this entire campaign. This was the first one. Well, one of the comments she said is that if she disagrees with Trump, she tells him one-on-one. That way she can make sure there are no leaks.
Yeah, very.
Or maybe there could be a leak from one individual.
That is very important because if we remember 2017, the Trump administration was riddled with leaks. You couldn't go into an Oval Office meeting without part of it being on the front page of the Washington Post or the New York Times. That has changed. This is a very tight operation. His team was very small in the campaign. It was not riddled with leaks in the same way as the beginning of his administration. And Susie Wiles, I think that's fantastic. A lot of people say, oh, Trump, he doesn't listen to people. He does, but he does in that setting, one-on-one, hashing things out. He takes in what you tell him, and then he makes the decision. So I think this is someone who knows him well, has spent the last 4 years getting to know him well, and knows how he operates and is ready to fold into that operation.
So there's a big decision over the weekend about going forward on legislation. And it's a little in the weeds for people about doing one reconciliation bill or two reconciliation bills. President Trump has settled on one. And let's just listen to Mike Johnson about how that'll go.
That's the benefit of doing it all together, because no one's going to love every element of a large package like that. But there'll be enough elements in there to pull everyone along. They'll be able to justify not getting all of their preferences on some of their big issues because there'll be so many other very important pieces to that one piece of legislation.
Just for folks at home who are paying attention, they don't need to know all the ins and outs of reconciliation, but why does it matter to try to do one instead of two?
So, according to reporting, Stephen Miller and much of the staff were pushing for this two-track, and Thune as well, of course, Senate Majority Leader. They wanted immigration first to make it easier, get that across the finish line, and then deal with the more complicated tax policy down the line. President Trump likes to go bold. He wants it all in one. I think he wants to be able to say this is the most impactful piece of legislation in American history. I think it's smart because this is an economy that's kind of sputtering despite what all the economic metrics say. So why not get no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, the working man's economic agenda, make that priority number one with immigration.
Correct.
The good thing for Mike Johnson, he says he wants this done by April. The special elections in Florida's 1st and 6th district happen just before that.
Oh, smart.
So they might have that 3-vote margin instead of the 1 vote.
Look at Kaylee. She's telling
All
herself.
right, I love it when someone makes me go.
Yeah.
I'm a Floridian.
Value added. Johnson also said the smallest margin in U.S. history for the first 100 days. But we're going to get it done. We'll see how they do. It's going to be a big part of this. Meanwhile, the outgoing president, Joe Biden, had some pointed comments. Roll this.
The only thing, my being the oldest president, I know more world leaders than any one of you ever met in your whole goddamn life. And I know them, and I know how they think. Not a joke.
I don't know where that comes from.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind
Oh
of...
my
He's
God.
talking to like 30-year-old men
Reporters.
and women. Yeah.
Right, and also you think about all the foreign leaders making their way to Mar-a-Lago. I mean, the person coming in, President Trump, clearly knows a lot. But look, his knee-jerk seems to be a certain level of aggression. We saw this after his remarks on the legacy of Carter. He made that kind of slight at President Trump, saying decency, decency, decency. It's really kind of striking because if you remember week 6 of his term, he met with historians in the East Room talking about wanting to be FDR, and he's leaving in a very different light. His staff still says to the Washington Post, history will remember him kindly. I think that's very much up for debate.
Senator Chuck Schumer did an interview, and he was asked about something that I think a lot of people are wondering, where are we going to get some answers about what people knew about Joe Biden's mental capacities? Here's what Chuck Schumer said.
What do you say to Americans who feel as though you and other top Democrats misled them about President Biden's mental acuity?
Look, we didn't, and let's look at
Yes,
President
you did.
Biden. He's had an amazing record. He's a great guy, and when he stepped down, he did it on his own because he thought it was better not only for the Democratic Party, for America. We should all salute him. We should all salute him.
Kaylee, last word.
I mean, that's one of the big shames is we won't find out really what happened with the Biden mental acuity. There will be books written, I'm sure, but there was a lot there. There was a cover-up. Reporters knew. Olivia Nuzzi said reporters were debating how frail, and I'm being kind in using that word. The president looked after a meeting with him early in his term. They lengthened or lightened his schedule. This is a big cover-up, and we'll never know the depths of it.
The kind of question that probably deserves a follow-up. Maybe we'll get our chance.
Right.
Kaylee,
Maybe
nice
we'll.
to see
Yes,
you.
I hope so.
Happy New Year, and
Thank
thanks
you.
for
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning into the live stream. You know what time it is. It is your boy Genesis. Actually, Canadian chick, what I was asking you is not the pronunciation of Justin Trudeau or Trudeau. Okay, Trudeau. No, I'm not asking you for the pronunciation of Justin Trudeau. I'm asking you for the pronunciation of the original guy, the guy who's going to make Canada great again. Pierre Poilievre or something like that. Because that guy is a great conservative. He has common sense. I saw a video he made this morning right after your Justin Trudeau resigned as the head of party leader or whatever. And he made a video and he said the Canadians should not be swayed or kind of like distracted because this is just a way to distract the Canadian people. See, I love America so much. I wanted to say America, but this is just a way to distract the Canadian people. Okay. So him saying that he's resigning and then somebody else is going to take his place from the same Liberal Party, it's not going to work. And this is what he was talking about. He's a great conservative, and he's going to be great for Canada. Oh, Pierre Poilievre, is that how you pronounce his name? I just want to be sure how you pronounce his name because, you know, you guys, I don't know. Shout out to everybody who tuned in. God bless you. You know what time it is. It is your boy Genesis. Double tap your screen, subscribe to the channel. I love you guys. Instead of looking for perfection, seek for consistency. Never give up on yourself. Never give up on your dreams. Never give up on God. Believe in yourself. Believe in your dreams. And then believe in God. Okay? God bless you. God bless you. God bless you. Shout out to the moderator, Dana. Shout out to the veterans. Shout out to the military, active duty, and everybody that tuned in. God bless you. Stay strong. Life is hard. Okay, life is hard. I get it. But stay strong. Stay focused. Stay disciplined. Work as hard as you can. Take care of your family. Take care of your kids. Be there for your kids, okay? God bless you. God bless you. God bless you. It is your boy Genesis, and I am signing out of the premises. See what I did right there?